Winnipeg Rental Network is a volunteer group for most of us, and they do a lot of work on helping landlords, tenants work together and gain access to different programs, different things to make it a so-called better process. There's a great program out of the North End called the TLC, which we all know as Tender Loving Care, but they call it the Tenant Landlord Cooperation. And I love it because at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? Tenant landlords cooperating, okay? As landlords, we have to realize that we need our tenants as much as they need us, right? They need us to provide a safe roof over their heads. They need us to make sure the stove works, the fridge works, the water, when they turn on the tap, there's clean water. That's what they need us for, to make sure their building's safe, their car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need them to obviously respect the property, hopefully pay the rent on time, hopefully pay the rent, period. You know, and at the end of the time that they're with us, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, hopefully they give us back the keys and they've had a good experience and they can move on to something bigger and better in their lives, right? It's a win-win situation. So what happens is, as landlords, we sometimes have to figure out, are there things that we can do to make the experience better for the tenants? Are there things that we can do to make the experience better for us? And that's where the Winnipeg Rental Network has stepped up and come up with a lot of different workshops on information for landlords. Like, these are free workshops. These are great for you guys. So just so that I know exactly who I'm speaking to, is anyone here a landlord? Excellent, excellent, excellent. So now, just so again I can focus on who I'm speaking to, does anyone here own, is it multiple properties, or are you talking like, anyone here own apartment buildings? Okay. Otherwise, it's mostly what? Duplexes, single family homes, that type of thing? Okay. Anybody rent out their basement? Their garage? None? Not yet? Okay.
Does your son count?
If he pays rent, then that may count. Is that a 99-year lease? Is that one of those?
It's a boomerang lease.
Boomerang lease. But, okay, so then, for those of you that are in the apartment building game, then there's going to be some information here for you guys. I'm in the apartment building game myself. I've got seven apartment buildings, 224 suites. So, and the only reason I'm telling you that is just so that you know where I'm coming from. So, because I always, like when I go to seminars or when I go to listen to people speak, my first question is, who is this person, right? Why should I listen to them? Who are they? Why? So I'm just letting you know that I am a landlord as well, and it's a great business in Winnipeg, right? What's our vacancy rate? Minus what? Right? Minus something? Especially depending on what price range you're in, you know? So it's a great city to be in, great times. So the program that I'm going to be speaking about right now, I'll be speaking about two items, but the program I'm going to be speaking right now is through Manitoba Hydro. They've got a recently new program called PAYS, right? It's a P-A-Y-S. And basically what it is, they allow you to finance energy efficient upgrades, all right? Now all this information, you don't have to take notes because all this information is on their website, okay? And if you want to approach me afterwards and ask me in detail for any questions, I have no problem sitting down with you and explaining in detail how these things work. So you don't have to really take notes or anything because it is all on the website. But basically, they have a couple of PAYS programs. They have a residential program and a commercial program. So now most of you people here own single family homes, duplexes, so you'll be interested in that program. And it's pretty straightforward, simple, okay? What happens is you've got energy efficient upgrades, mostly in the terms of insulation. You have in terms of water saving measures. You can't do a toilet, for example, by itself, but you can do a low flush toilet in conjunction with insulation upgrades, et cetera, lighting upgrades. The nice thing about Manitoba Hydro is as soon as you call them to come do an audit, they will bring you a free low flow shower head, right? They will bring you right away. As soon as they come see, here, there's a free low flow shower head. So it's almost like you want a prize just by calling them. So they come out and they analyze your property for free, no charge. And now there's a lot of programs that Hydro has out there. We've taken advantage of their programs, and we've received, like, honestly, I've received thousands and thousands of dollars back from Manitoba Hydro. And we then think to ourselves, why does Manitoba Hydro do this? Okay, well, I'm going to explain quickly why they do this. It costs billions of dollars to build a dam, as we all know, right? They have to go through hoops and bounds and agreements, and they have to go through people's land sometime, and it's a huge process. So what happens is they export energy. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And the less that Manitoba uses, the more they can export. And when they export, they charge higher rates. So they want to export more to charge higher rates to make more money. So they have two choices. Either they build a dam and they increase the supply, okay, which they can then supply to Manitoba and then hopefully sell and make more money. Or they can get Manitoba to save. And if Manitoba saves the equivalent of energy, right, which adds up to what a dam would produce, it's the same thing. But instead of spending billions of dollars on a dam, let's spend $100 million on programs. So let's give away $100 million worth of incentives, for example, and we will save the amount of energy that a dam would create. Therefore, they get to sell their energy at a higher rate, they win. So that's why they have these programs in the first place, okay? So, you know, the saying that nobody gives you nothing for free, sure, it works in this situation. There is a motivation behind the scenes of why they're doing this. Us as landlords, do we really care what their plan is or whatever else? Not really. Is there energy savings for us as landlords? Yes. So what do? Let's take advantage of it. And unlike a lot of grants that are out there for landlords, this is not a first come, first serve. This is like, please come. Please apply, please come. Please come and do it. Please. Here's more money, here's more money, here's more money. There's no first come, first serve, which is phenomenal. So it's just a matter of you wanting to do it, you come and apply, you're approved, you do it. But basically, the simplicity of the program is what they'll do is they'll analyze your savings because of your particular upgrade. Now, the easiest upgrade to do is insulation. So what they'll do is they'll come and they'll analyze what you have now, okay? The type of furnace that you have now. You will, let's say, for example, put in a new furnace, a new high-efficiency furnace, if you have an older home, which most of the rental properties in Winnipeg, let's face it, most Winnipeg rental properties are older. You get an efficiency furnace, you've got insulation upgrades. They will calculate the savings, your energy savings, all right? So then what they'll do is they'll figure, okay, on a yearly basis, for example, you're gonna save $1,200. You're gonna save $1,200 a year on energy savings because of this furnace and because of this insulation upgrade. So then what they'll do is they'll basically take the $1,200, they'll divide it by 12, which is very simple, which works out in this case, in my example, to $100 a month. And what they'll do is they'll finance $100 a month of your program. So your payment, the payment that you were actually making, is pretty much the same. It doesn't cost you any more, right? It doesn't really cost you any less. But instead now, you've got a new efficiency program or a new efficiency furnace or insulation or whatever the item is, which is being paid off over a certain amount of time. And then once it's paid off, once it's paid for their program, you now benefit from the savings from that moment on, okay? So frankly, as a landlord, why would we not take advantage of this? It doesn't cost us any money, right? Our payment is the same in terms of our expenses. The tenants are usually happy because you show up with a new furnace that's more efficient, usually much quieter, right? Let's face it, a lot of these new furnaces are much, much quieter. Tenants are happy. Win-win situation, right? And that's why these programs have come out, and the residential program is popular. They also have a commercial program for apartment buildings. Same premises. The only thing with the apartment buildings is that you can, depending on the way the meter is set up, because all these things, all these loans are attached to the meter. It's always attached to the meter, not the particular owner. All these programs are transferable. So if you go and do this program on a rental property, and then you sell the rental property, okay, the new owner of that rental property can take over your loan because the loan is tied to the meter. It's tied to that hydro meter or that gas meter. So it's not tied to the building or to the owner's name or et cetera. It's always tied to the meter. And that's the nice thing about this program is that if you take it today and you have a 5-year program, for example, to pay back this loan, and in a year or two things change and you end up selling the house for whatever reason, the new owner can take over the program. So it's completely transferable. And with apartment buildings, depending on the situation, some apartment buildings, the tenants pay for certain things and other times the landlord pays for certain things. So with the commercial program, you can actually put it on where the tenant pays. So for example, if the tenant pays their hydro bill and you've done efficiencies for the building, the tenant, let's say the tenant was paying $30 a month for hydro. If the tenant agrees in writing, then they'll have the savings. Well, sorry, they'll have the energy retrofit, whatever it is for their particular unit, and their payment will stay at the $30 a month, but the savings that they had is now financed into their payment. So the exact same thing as the owner of the house, except the tenant's doing it, right? And again, that gets transferred from one tenant to the other tenant. So if that tenant leaves and moves out, another tenant moves in, it keeps getting transferred from tenant to tenant. So again, a great program. All my particular buildings, I'm a big believer in having the tenants pay as many of the bills as possible. The only thing I pay for is water, because as you know, most large buildings, there's usually one water meter coming into the building. But all my buildings are electric heat. So everybody has their own hydro meter, and they pay their heat and hydro. So if they want to open the windows in the winter, they're paying the bill. If they want to have 3 or 4 air conditioners in the summer, crank them. They're paying the bill. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in the more you save, or the more you conserve, the more you save, the more you expend, the more you're going to spend. I'm a big believer in that because ideally as landlords, what are we doing? We're training our tenants or helping our tenants eventually become homeowners. That's the ultimate goal. And if we don't teach them that they have to conserve and watch their pennies, then eventually when they become a homeowner and then they start realizing, wait a second, I'm paying the water bill or I'm paying the heating bill. Uh-oh, I can't crank it like I used to. I can't take a 2-hour shower anymore because wait a second, I'm paying the bill now. So again, that's the way I look at it. I'm looking at it as I'm basically there to guide these people to eventually become homeowners, and it's my responsibility to teach them to be conservative, and because in the end it's going to benefit them. So in terms of the PAYS program through Manitoba Hydro, the basics of the program is pretty much as I've just stated. It's financed. They'll calculate what you'll save over a year. They'll divide that up by 12. They'll figure out your monthly payment. Your payment as a landlord or as a owner, et cetera, will not go up than what you were paying before. So there's no risk to you as a landlord. Your payment stays the same. And the portion of the savings that you're saving is basically how they finance what you've done in terms of the upgrade so that they get paid back to the program. Again, it's tied to the meter. It's transferable. Are there any disadvantages? I don't see any right now. There could be at some point in time, but I don't see any disadvantages to this program. So it took a while. We've actually been working on this program for a long time. Manitoba Hydro has what's called the Low Income Advisory Board. I've been sitting on that board for about 4 or 5 years now, and they've been working on this for a while. They came out with the residential program, and now recently the commercial program for multifamily projects. The residential program, though, does cover duplexes. So if you do have a duplex, it's covered under the residential program. That program is already, like I said, in place. Very, very simple program. A lot of this information is online on the Manitoba Hydro website. And the nice thing about this is call them, ask them to come down and give you a free assessment or a free audit of your home, and they're more than happy to do that. And while that inspector is there, if they can say, oh, by the way, insulation, oh, by the way, this, oh, by the way, that, by the way, this, they will tell you. So there's nothing to lose, right? Unless you're doing something in your house that you shouldn't be doing and you don't want an inspector coming through your house, otherwise there's really nothing to lose here. And these inspectors are more than happy to say, hey, listen, you can also do this, you can also do this. Because again, they save energy, which they can export at a larger cost and make more money. So that's the reasoning behind the program. I think it's a win-win. I'm doing it myself on whatever building that I haven't renovated through the program or through other programs. I don't see why not. And the nice thing about this too is that you're keeping a lot of people busy. You're keeping insulation contractors busy. You're keeping guys that install furnaces busy. You're helping the economy, right? You're creating jobs. You're helping people stay busy, et cetera, et cetera. Lighting, like just look at lighting. Look at light bulbs. Look what they've come to in the last few years, right? They used to be these huge light bulbs. Now they're getting smaller and smaller, more light and better, and a lot more savings. So honestly, it's a really good program. As landlords here, you should all seriously look at it. There's no risk. All the information is online. If you have any questions at all, just feel free to ask me or approach me afterwards or bug me or whatever else. But everything is online. And are there any questions now at this time? Was it too good of an explanation?
You had mentioned lighting installation. Like, do they do windows?
Windows is one thing that they'll finance windows, right? But the windows aren't. It's a bit of a touchy. There isn't huge energy savings in windows. Windows are more of an aesthetic thing. They look nice, right? There isn't a huge energy savings. With windows, there's what's called the U values, right? And the higher your U values, the more you're saving. The nice thing about windows, though, if you are going to do windows, is that Hydro does give you an incentive for putting in all of us have heard of windows in terms of there's what's called the dual pane and triple pane. We've all heard of this, right? We've all heard of the fact that there's you'll hear dual pane low argon, right? Or low E, right? Which is a film. There's like a film that's on one of the glasses. Now, on one of the panes. Now, the interesting about Hydro, a lot of people don't know this, but you get an incentive for that coat of low E film. But if you do a second coat of low E film, which doesn't cost much more from the manufacturer, your incentive goes up big time, okay? And I just happen to have the right window installer or supplier that told me this, because otherwise I wouldn't have known, because Hydro didn't tell nobody, right? And they basically said, Mario, if you do the double low E film, your incentive goes up dramatically, which more than covers the cost of the second coat of low E film. And that's what we've done, okay? So in terms of windows, there are like a little trick of the trade, so to speak, which is unfortunate that they don't mention that. But they have a financing program for windows. But in terms of energy savings, there isn't a huge amount of energy savings. It's more of an aesthetic. It looks nice to have nice new windows on.